Hey guys, so I know that I have been MIA for 2 weeks now, and I was doing Monday and Wednesday updates. I do want to eventually go back to that, and I have a really awesome video in store which I am super excited about. But I have been going through some stuff. If you guys follow me on my Twitter account, then you know that I've had a rough week. Apart from that, I have a lot of stuff in store, and I think on Wednesday, either this Wednesday or this weekend, expect a review of the ColourPop Kathleen Lance astrology collection done by a astrologer, me obviously, and then also I made like some tweets about judging some of the shades. I want to reiterate, I love Kathleen Lance, I love ColourPop. It won't be like a hate video. If anything, it's gonna be like satire towards astrology content based off of people making astrology palettes, just over like my own personal opinion, that kind of thing. So this video is going to be your rising sign and your descendant sign. So rising sign is always your first house. Rising sign is how you appear to others. If you've ever heard someone talking about you, if you've ever heard someone like judging you based off of maybe like a first introduction and you've ever felt completely misunderstood or written off, that is because they're going off of how you carry yourself, how you appear to be, but it's not always who you actually are. And who you actually are is your 7th house, your descendant self, your true self. So I'm just gonna be going through the whole 12 signs of rising, and your rising sign is your first house, and then your descendant sign is the opposite of your rising sign. It's always going to be the opposite of your rising sign. It's never going to be like anything other than your polar opposite, as in your sister sign, or what is an opposition from your first house sign. So for instance, if your rising sign is in Aries, your descendant will be in Libra. If your rising sign is in Taurus, your descendant will be in Scorpio, that kind of thing. And your descendant is always like your core self in a way. I feel like lately, the more that I've been researching or reading about descendants, the more that I feel like it almost is something that, in my personal opinion, relates to your astrological, like emotional compass versus even your moon sign at times, because it is your core self, your deeper self, your like truer self in a way. So I've been getting really fascinated with this, and yeah, we're just gonna dive right in. Aries rising, you come off very loud, bold, daring, maybe even rough around the edges, but underneath this, your descendant would be in 7th house Libra, making you actually a little bit more indecisive about what you want, maybe not always liking having to be the one to call the shots, maybe a little bit more soft-spoken or gentle, and kind of a people pleaser, and I think a lot of people may underestimate this because you come off completely opposite of this, but when they learn that you are not like this big, loud, fiery person, like I think with your loved ones, you can actually be really quick to want to compromise yourself or sacrifice what you want to please others, and people can be very shocked to find this out. Taurus risings come off very like mellow, very like calm and collected, kind of stubborn, maybe kind of go with the flow, but underneath this they have a Scorpio descendant. Scorpio descendant makes you very calculated, very analytical, more mysterious than you let on. Like there's always something a little bit below the surface that people are kind of surprised to find out about you, and you are extremely untrusting of people at first sight. There's always like something more to dig below the surface about someone that meets the eye, and you aren't someone that just like blindly accepts something that you hear the first time. You always have to like re-examine it or reevaluate it for yourself to like actually believe if it's true or not. And then Gemini rising makes you a Sagittarius descendant. So this person is very like lively, animated, and kind of a social butterfly upon first meeting them, but underneath this they are extremely philosophical, can be extremely cynical, kind kind of a glass is half full perspective at times if their energy isn't channeled correctly, and maybe someone that has a lot of ideas, has a lot of theories, wants to travel or wants to constantly escape or go into like new perspectives of things, maybe like constantly wanting to write or read a book or start lots of things but then maybe not finish them. Yeah, and then Cancer rising. So a Cancer rising has a Capricorn descendant, and this is interesting because you come off very like lovable and sweet and kind, but underneath this you are extremely reserved and kind of cool and collected, and it takes a lot for you to actually open up to someone, and I feel like maybe this surprises people because you come off very like loving and friendly, but underneath this it actually takes way more than that to get you to want to kind of trust people or get in the habit of being comfortable or familiar with someone. And then Leo rising. So Leo rising comes off very like generous, warm, lively, but people can be surprised to learn that because their Aquarius descendant is in the 7th house, they learn that these people are actually a little bit more detached at times, maybe a little bit more cool and collected, not super hard on the sleeve, a little bit more reserved than that, than maybe they come off at first, and someone that just wants to really care about like big picture things but has a hard time with like intermediate relationships or like one-on-one relationships. Someone that's more likely to like go and start a petition or go and start like a political movement or protest, but then have a really hard time like expressing their emotions toward an individual. And then Virgo rising has a Pisces descendant, and this is also interesting because Virgo risings come off very like analytical and to the point and very assertive and very knowledgeable, but underneath this they're extremely naive, extremely kind of wrapped in this like fantasy land, hard to bring them down to earth at times, and can detach easily from things or go into like their own world or their own reality or make up their own reality of what's happening around them. So it's interesting because Virgo risings appear a lot more like cutthroat or meticulous, but underneath this they're actually a little bit more indecisive and naive to a fault. And Libra risings. So Libra risings are fun because they come off very like polite and friendly and bubbly, but underneath this they are a little bit assertive to their loved ones. They can come off very, very blunt. They are sweet, but then once you get to know them, they are assertive, they are bold, they are loud. They're not afraid to tell you what they want, and I think a lot of people can be shocked because you kind of initially get attracted to like a Libra rising person because you feel like they're gonna be like very passive or very like easygoing, but then you learn that like they know what they know and they know what they like and they want, and they will tell you what they want and what they like. And yeah, and then Scorpio risings have a Taurus descendant, so they can come off kind of like mysterious or maybe high-strung or maybe I want to say calculated, but underneath this they can be a little bit more gullible, they can be a little bit more easygoing than they lead on. They can actually seem more high-strung than they actually are, but then underneath this be extremely like Taurian, laid-back energy, but extremely stubborn. If you are to try to debate with them or argue a perspective that they strongly relate to or feel is the truth, they will combat this until their last breath. And then Sagittarius risings come off very like philosophical and intelligent and intellectually stimulating, but underneath this they're a little bit more scatterbrained, a little bit more floating by various topics and like lightly brushing them instead of deeply immersing themselves into them. So they can like absorb many concepts, but they don't really like always go straight into the nitty-gritty or educate themselves deeper than like the surface level. And they can be a little bit more focused on being the life of the party than actually being kind of vulnerable in a way that makes they aren't as honest with others as they wish to be, if that makes sense. Because their descendant is in Gemini. I don't know if I already said that. And then Capricorn risings have Cancer descendants. So Capricorn risings seem extremely reserved and collected and calculated and traditional, but underneath this they are huge mushy teddy bears, and they just have that Cancer energy, and they just want to kind of drown you in affection, drown you in love, can be extremely naive, just want like everything to be sweet and marshmallowy and safe, and this can surprise a lot of people because they come off kind of like reserved and scary and calculated, but underneath this they are just the complete opposite. And then Aquarius risings have Leo descendants, so they come off very like airy and lighthearted and playful and political and maybe even detached, but underneath this they are huge mushy loving teddy bears that just want a lot of attention, want a lot of like acceptance, and just wear their heart on their sleeves, but they don't always come off this way, so people can be like genuinely shocked by how emotional they can admit themselves to be after like getting to know them. And then Pisces risings have Virgo descendants, so these people come off very like lighthearted and playful and like a little bit head in the clouds or dreamy, but underneath this they are literally calculating everything. They are watching your every move. They have a deeper understanding for everything that's going on around them. They are seeing. They may not act like they're seeing it, but they're seeing it. They have that Virgo descendant, and they are extremely calculated and somewhat of a perfectionist. So that is just my brief little overview of rising signs and descendant signs. Again, rising is your first house, as descendant is your 7th house, and this is just like a light overview. This is like a super basic overview. If you want to see, I will link a thread below of my rising descendant threads on Twitter, and then if you have any questions, maybe in the future I'll do like more in-depth videos on each singular descendant sign. So yeah, comment below with your rising and your descendant sign and let me know how you feel about this, how you feel it resonated with you, if you feel it's accurate, if you don't. And then stay tuned for my astrology video coming up, reviewing the astrology palette by Colorful. I'm super excited about it. And yeah, so thank you for watching this. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe.